going, guys? Shannon again for another episode of Hoops and Football. Today will be the review of the round 12 clash against the Great Western Sydney up at Sydney. We all know there's a bit of a what's the one we shouldn't, the one we let get away. Sorry, it took me a while to spit that out. Most of you can probably agree with me. It hurts that we lost that one because the score ended up being 12-8, 80 to 10-17, 77. So as you can see, just off of those, we shot ourselves in the foot, not being accurate. So that really does hurt. You could see in the end we started to panic. They just kicked one or two goals in that last quarter, and they just got us too easy. So it's definitely something we'll have to learn on. Those red time scores definitely are killing us. So we'll have to practice on as we're getting older. But I take more positives out of this game more than I do negative. Yes, we didn't win, and that really does. And we can all agree it freaking stings that we didn't win that game. It does. Because you want that reward for effort that those players put in, because they were bloody on fire those first three quarters. You know, Giants punched back a couple of times, and we hit back, and we seemed to withstand it for a while. But I just think that last quarter, you could see with their age and experience that we just couldn't handle it. We just got tired. I think we were just running too much. And then just the mistakes and kicking and all that stuff. But that just comes with age and our fitness. And some of these boys still like with their fit. But some of these players have had maybe interrupted pre-seasons as well, so they're not quite there. In a year or two, this is a totally different conversation. We're probably sitting here smiling, jumping, and going, "Well, we won because we just smashed the Giants." Now, I think in my opinion, it was estimated. I think they said we're going to lose by 40. We lost by 3, and we had them up. We were ahead by 30. I think one stage it was 35 points. So that's a massive swing for them. And to me, that's more of a win for us than it is for them. I think for me, the Giants should be very angry with themselves. I don't think Kingsley will be happy. He has quite a high standard for the club, and for them to just beat us and come down to the last 5 minutes to beat a team that's just started their rebuild, it's a concern for me for them. But anyway, look, that was the score. Just a bit of my thoughts on the game. A lot of people were quite negative if you jump on social media. A lot of people were blasting Ooze, blaming Ooze. Like, mate, he didn't contribute to us kicking 10 goals, 17. There was a few times where there were simple set shots, 20, 30 meters out, dead shot in front. We just shanked him. So that is definitely not on Ooze. I don't take that at all over at Ooze. Look, he did the right thing, especially in his media conference afterwards. He's proud, but also a bit frustrated that they lost the game, and the boys are quite frustrated as well. There's some are quite happy that we were at this stage, especially where we are in the rebuild, and a lot of the players were quite pissed that we let this one get away. So, look, that is what it is. We can't change it. So, game's over. We'll go away. We'll work on some things, and we'll go from there. So let's just break down some of the players. A couple of the best ones. Dion Prestia, I was one to say that I definitely thought Prestia needed some more time in the reserves, but he proved me wrong. Look at that, 1 goal, 31 disposals, 15 kicks, 16 handballs, 2 marks, 5 tackles, 7 clearances, and 381 metres gained. And that's what I want from the midfielders. 381 metres gained. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. If the midfielders aren't getting metres gained off their kicks, then it just means they're just throwing on the boot or quick handballs. So you could probably nearly give best on ground to Dion Prestia, especially coming off his first game back. Sal Candy Hopper. Jacob Hopper had 1 goal, 29 disposals. What do you have? 15 kicks, 14 handballs, 3 marks, 2 tackles, 13 clearances, a monster game of clearances, and 493 metres gained. All right, and then probably that those clearances were really good, especially considering how much we got smashed last week in clearances. It's good to see that Hopper took that to heart and really went to town on that. Sammy Banks, 25 disposals, 16 kicks, 9 handballs, 7 marks. No tackles, which is quite annoying. He really needs to get the tackles. And 491 metres gained. So as you can see, he's not obviously usually 600, but He's almost at 500 again. So, look, honestly, with Banksy, he probably doesn't lose his spot. For me in that halfback, I think he's just now claimed that spot as his, and I would like for him to keep that spot. Timmy Taranto, another game with 2 goals, 23 disposals, 11 kicks, 12 handballs, 4 marks, 2 tackles, 5 clearances, 361 metres gained. Now, that was one I'm really happy with Taranto, because he's normally in that low 200s in his metres gained, and I really want to see him to be in that 300 plus. It just means that he's not just doing short handballs, and I love that he's going forward kicking goals, because to me, if Timmy Taranto kicks a couple of goals, Hopper and Preston kick a couple of goals, we are a totally different side. And if they do that more often, we are more likely to win more games than we are to lose in that aspect of the game. So I really, really do like that one. Hugo L. Smith had a pretty good game again. We had one behind. Probably should have kicked that one. It was pretty easy. 23 disposals, 15 of them were kicks, 8 handballs, 2 marks, no tackles. So he's got to work on that as well. 2 clearances, 450 metres gained. The one thing I will say about Hugo is he's really starting to work on breaking tackles. So against Essendon last week, I think it was Merritt. He shrugged Merritt off as well. Did the whole duck to head, threw him to the ground. He did the exact same thing to Callum Ward. And that's another one. Probably a shout out to Ward. Sorry to hear that he's done his ACL, and probably his career is going to be over. I think he's going to retire. They were saying on the day that his family's moved back to Victoria, so he's probably already kind of told everybody he's going to be hanging the boots up at the end of the year. And he's been a good champion for that club as well, and it's just sad that he goes out that way. And if anything, he probably saved him as well. That last quarter speech going into that fourth quarter probably is what got him firing and going. So, no, good by Hugo. Nick Flostone had another Nick Flostone game, 19 disposals, was at 13 kicks, 3 handballs, 4 marks, 1 tackle, 443 metres gained. Kane McCauliffe, really impressive, another impressive game from Kane McCauliffe. I really think you could tell that he was in there because you could see his speed and burst from the midfield, and his pure strength. It was very hard to tackle. Like, you just couldn't. Watch a few times where he just broke away from 2 or 3 players and they just couldn't hold him down. So he's definitely growing into it. Would like to see his ratio change. So in his 18 disposals, he had 5 kicks and 13 handballs. And I would like to see him probably kick more because he seemed to be a very good kick. He's one that laced out Tommy Lynch I think it was for Lynch's first goal. And it's probably the first time that Lynch had a space where he didn't have to stop and get that 2 seconds to allow Taylor to come up to him. It allowed Lynchy to mark it without breaking stride, and it made it a lot easier for him. He also had 2 tackles, 2 marks, 4 clearances, and he had 225 metres gained. A lot of people blasting Sonzi for his game. Look, I know he had a couple of little errors there. He's still quite young, and he's still coming into it. Look, he's in the same draft class as Tom Brown and Josh Gibcus and Banksy. So we all still criticise Banksy and Tommy Brown, so it's no different to Tyler Sonzi. He had 1 goal, 17 disposals, 9 marks, 8 kicks. What's that? 1 mark, 3 tackles. So he puts these tackles up. Metres gained was quite low. 2 clearances, 206 metres gained. Jack Ross had a bit of a so-so game. With 17 disposals, 11 kicks, 6 handballs. So 4 marks, 2 tackles. So he did quite well, 515 metres gained. So that was quite good. Brody seemed to have another good solid game. He had 17 disposals, 11 kicks, 6 handballs, 7 marks. Toby Nankervis, I think is probably what really helped us in that centre. Is Toby Nankervis had a really good game in the ruck. And really that's what you really kind of need from him. He had 15 disposals, 7 kicks, 8 handballs, 3 marks, 6 tackles. So obviously he's kind of repeating himself after the last couple of games with his tackle counts finally going back up. And he had 36 headouts and 196 minutes gained, which is fine. Caleb Smith, look, I don't think he's doing anything wrong. And I don't think he deserves to come out. I think he's learning to take the game on and use his speed. And I think it's what we need. And he's only going to get better by more games we give him. So this whole in-out sub game rule isn't going to help him. But he had 13 disposals, 10 kicks, 3 handballs, 5 marks, 2 tackles. And that's about it from there. Thomas Sims, I was really impressed with Sims' game. Look, he was back up ruck. I think he definitely competed. I really thought he was going to kick that goal. He seems to be quite a good goal kicker. I think maybe just the nerves got to him. You'll go back. You'd hope you go back and practice on that. I think we all need to do that. Go back and maybe kick. Everyone have about 50 shots each, shot on goal, whether you're backline or not. So Sims had 13 disposals, 9 marks, 4 handballs, 7 marks, 1 kick, 4 tackles. Campbell Gray seems to be slotting into the seniors like he's played 150 games, similar to Trainer. 13 disposals, 9 marks. What was that? 4 kicks, 5 marks, 9 and 4 handballs, 9 kicks. Yep, that was pretty good. Seth Campbell's had 2 games in a row where he hasn't kicked a goal. I'm not really worried about him because he seems to be that player that just needs a little bit. A few times he was very close, and we just fumbled it. It was right in that pocket. I think it was the third quarter. It was like Jack Ross, Steely Green, and Seth Campbell, and they just couldn't work it out. If we had kicked that goal, it puts up by 41, and that changes, that going into that last quarter completely. Seth Campbell had 13 disposals, 6 kicks, 7 handballs, 2 marks, 4 tackles. Tom Brady had 12 disposals. Ben Miller, you could probably nearly put on best on ground because he kept Hogan to 0 goals. Hogan didn't kick a single goal from a player who was leading the Coleman. So I'd take that as a lot because people have been saying that he's not that good. Take him out. You need to bring Blight in. Well, he kept Jesse Hogan goalless, and that is a major deal. Ryan Mansell had 11. Tommy Lynch had 10 with 2 goals, 1. He probably should kick the other one. Luke Trainer, 9 disposals, was then when made a sub. He really wanted that goal. You could see it. Would have brought the house down. Jonty Fall, look, he had 5 marks, and I was more impressed. Look, he kicked 1 goal, 2. Could have kicked 3. Could only won the game off his own boot. Just impressed of how well he went up the ground, was taking those big marks when we needed them, when we just couldn't seem to get past halfway. Big forward come up, bang, and grab a ball, grab a mark, and we go from there. And that's what we need. That's what Jack used to do. Jack or Lynchy used to. When we were struggling to get out of the back line, he'd float up to the wing and just take a big clunk. Steely Green, 2 goals, 2. He was the same, probably wasted a few. 7 disposals. McIntosh, 4 disposals, 1 goal. I was so hoping to kick that goal in that last quarter. I definitely think it would have been the sealer. It would have taken the big sting out of their momentum that they had. So that's the players. Bit of breakdown. Look, you could probably go Hopper, Taranto, Dion Prestia. Just thinking who else would be. Ben Miller for me. And I would probably nearly give it to Kane McAuliffe. They all just stood out. As in your best on. You can pick where you want to go from there. If you guys could, just leave who you think was best on the ground in the comments below. And also, guys, could you hit that like and subscribe while we're on a bit of a pause here. My channel's actually hit up to nearly 40 subscribers. It doesn't seem much to you guys, but my goal is to hit 500 by the end of the season. And then once we hit in 500 subscribers, I'm probably going to start doing some lives where I'll have the fans jump on and just talk about after a game or what we want to do into the draft or what we're looking to do, what we want to go and take into next season. So if you hit that like and subscribe and share it as well. I am also on Twitter, so you can jump onto Twitter and just search up Hoops and Football. I will be there as well, and I do post on the games and share my links as well. It really helped the channel, and I really appreciate it. It's starting to grow. Did a video the other day for some trade targets, and that's my biggest video so far, and about 450 views, so it's about 8 likes, so I really appreciate everyone who jumps on and watches my stuff. So to disposals, at one stage we had them up by about 100, so it ended up being 370 to 350. Just like I said, we lose disposals, we tend to lose, but it is what it is. Disposal effectiveness, look, got to work on that, because if you look at this, we were 70% around the ground, they were 74, which does make a difference. I know we are young. Now this one is what's going to hurt me the most. They had 50 inside 50s, we had 61, and we still kicked at 42% inside 50, and they kick at 34. So that tells you normally you'd win a game. And also, the magical number, 4 free kicks to our 15. For the first time ever, we may have actually won the free kick count by a landslide. We won the hitouts, 38 to 40. We won clearances, 29 to 42. So look, we actually improved on from last week. That's a major swing from being down by 22 to winning it by 13. It's a nearly 30 clearance swing around. Centre clearance is 5 to 16, which shows you why I think we started off so well and they just took them forever to catch up. Stoppage clearances to 24 to 26, so that was good. We won the contested possessions, which is actually good because we've been normally losing them. 120 to 149, so that's a slowly improvement. And look, this is what we're after. We're just after slowly improving the game. They won uncontested 237 to 194. You could kind of see that was near the end, near the momentum, where we just couldn't get the ball back, and they were just kind of felt they were playing backyard bullshit, where they're just kind of playing keepings off, where they just we'll make sure they can't get them, and they'll just chip away and eventually get into our forward line. They won marks 105 to 84. Look, I'm not too worried about the marking game. That's just their chipping style. You can see at the end where they were just chipping around, waiting for that right target to open up. And we would ball watch, and it would come forward because somebody else hadn't come across to help out, and they would get away with it. Obviously, the goals 12-10 to our 10 kills us. They only kicked 8 behinds to our 17. It just felt like they would not miss. It was driving me insane watching that game. This one's going to kill most of you guys as well. Time in front. They were in front for 16 minutes and 25 seconds. So not even a full quarter to our 110 minutes is how much we led the game for. That needs to be improved on. That really stung. Tackles seem to drop off. We're kind of going back to our normal. They were 63 to our 43. Inside tackles, it looks like they kind of jumped up in that last quarter. It was 16 to 9. Better than it was the other week where we had 2. Definitely need to work on that. Look, I really thought we were going to overrun them just because they lost Ward through that injury. And I really thought that was going to be the momentum swing for us to go. But obviously in the end it wasn't. But look, it just unfortunately not what you can do about that. I don't think McIntosh was the right sub play. It's definitely something we should probably maybe look into a bit different. Try maybe like a Jasper Alga or something who can inject a bit more of a speed or more polish as well. Look, end of the day, what are we going to take? What can we take out of this? So I'm trying to think of 3 points to take out of this. Young forward, so where we struggled, as you can see, with the 10-7, which is our forward line, which is our youngest part on the ground. If you look at our midfield is quite experienced, and our defence is probably the most experienced part. So that you can definitely see the youth in our forward line. Look, in a couple of years' time, I will still say this, that we will probably bounce back. In a couple of years' time, we may not lose that game. We may end up blowing them out by 70 and win the game. So that's probably one takeaway. We are a young forward line. Probably the next takeaway, our number 2, is, was it 600? I think it was 600 plus games of experience came back in with Tommy Lynch, Toby Nankervis, and Dion Prestia. That's a lot of experience. And if you look at the scoreboard, I think if Lynch and Nankervis and Prestia weren't there, it would have been the other way around, where they would have been up by 40 and this could have been a 100-point blowout. So it just shows you how much that experience does make a difference for us as a club. And that's something that's going to help us for the next coming weeks. And we've got Sydney next week. So that's, to me, that is now a winnable game. I actually asked this question when they were versing the Ds, and Ds were slapping them. I said, is this now more of a winnable game? Because the Sydney seems to be in a bit of strife. So has this now game against Sydney at the MCG, where they don't seem to play too well, has this now become a winnable game for the Tigers? And is this where we can go? This is already against the Giants, who are in the top 8, and this is against Sydney, who have only won 4 games. Now let's do the same thing we just did this week, the first 3 quarters against Sydney, and I think they'll just crumble. So that's definitely a winnable game. I'm trying to go to the next. So that's two takeaways out of it. Probably the next one will probably be the polish of Dion Prestia in that midfield, because that might have been the key takeaway you could take out of him coming into that game. His foot skills and kicking skills, yes, he's a bit slower. And look, the midfield, people will say our midfield is slow, and it is. But this game just worked because it was against another slow midfield in Giants. But I take Presti's clean skills and IQ out of that game as well. It was my third point of how much Dion Presti as an individual helped in that midfield time. And that's a big growth thing for me. Take that as into he's probably sitting there talking to a Tyler Sunzi, probably sitting there talking to a K McCall about ways to kick a ball, on how to find open space and when to do the big bombs and not. Alright guys, that's it for this episode of the round 12, Richmond versus the GWS Giants over at the NG Stadium. Unfortunately, it's a loss, but I still say, it's more of a win for us than it is for them. So, alright guys, that should be it for this episode. If you could, just hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment below on the things we've spoken about, and if anything else you wanted added, or anything else you want to talk about while you're at it, because I'm always happy for a free chat. Alright guys, until next time, stay safe. Don't forget, go Tigers.